All right, we will get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and welcome to the Smith School of Business webinar on the Accelerated MBA program. I'll introduce myself in a moment, but I just want to give you a quick overview of what today's session is about. Me and my guest are going to be speaking about the AMBA is the short form, the Accelerated MBA program at the Smith School of Business. And what you're looking at here is Goods Hall, which is the home to the Smith School of Business in the middle of Queen's University's campus in Kingston, Ontario, where all of our Accelerated MBA students spend some time throughout the program, even though you take the majority of the program in your home city. This program is a one-year program. It's 12 months long. You can take it while you work, and you can take it from anywhere in Canada. Today's webinar specifically is about the tips and tricks of applying to the program. So I'm going to give a very high-level overview of the Accelerated MBA program, and then I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Carrie Fraser, who is the application advisor for this program, who is going to talk to you about the application process and some recommendations she has as you go through that process. If you have any questions while you are listening today, please feel free to drop them in the chat, or by chat, I mean the Q&A button on the Zoom ribbon. And Carrie and I will be happy to get to them. That's another picture of Goods Hall here. We also have a location in Toronto, which I have a picture of here. And that's where I'm based out of. My name is Emily Saunders. I am the director of the Accelerated MBA program. I work out of our Toronto office, which is situated on the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Petun First Nations, the Seneca and the Mississaugas of the Credit River. And Carrie, who will talk to you in a couple minutes, is our application advisor. She's based out of Kingston, which is situated on the traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. It will just be the two of us today because this webinar is specifically about the application process, but I do encourage you to also go and listen to our recorded webinars on our website. If you go to program details and click on info sessions or webinars, I think info sessions, there's a list of recent webinars we've recorded. And in most of those, we do have an alumni or a current student as a guest who will speak to the student perspective. We have a webinar on the program in general where we do a deep dive into the different elements of the program. We have a webinar on career outcomes. We have a webinar on virtual teams, which some of our teams are virtual. So I definitely encourage you to go and check out that webpage, as today we're going to specifically be talking about the application process. So at a very high level, just so you know what the AMBA program is and what it's all about, it is a program that kind of has five key pillars that offer great benefit to you as a student. The first is the flexibility. So as I said, this program is a 12-month program. It starts every January and runs until December, and you can take it while you continue to work. The reason you're able to do that is that this program is only for business undergrads, so individuals who have an undergrad in commerce or something similar, where you have the majority of foundational courses already covered, and you're therefore granted some advanced standing on those courses. And our year is more at like a strategic leadership level, as all the students have that foundational support. So that means that there are less credits than a traditional full-time program, and we are able to fit those credits into classes twice a week, every other week, as opposed to you having to go to school full-time. You can take this program from anywhere in Canada. I'll talk about what that looks like in a moment, which means that you have a really diverse perspective in the classroom discussion. There's, people from Calgary that work in oil and gas. There's people in Toronto who work in finance, people in Ottawa who work, in public service. And so it just allows for a much richer discussion. And it also gives you a network across the country. You do get quite a bit of support as an AMBA student, or any of our MBA students at Smith. We offer you a career coach, a executive coach, a lifestyle coach, and a team coach. Forgot the fourth one there. So every team is put into, or every individual is put into a team who you work with throughout the program, and that team is given a coach who supports you throughout to help you become high performing. All of our MBA programs use the team approach, which means you work with a group of people throughout the year on completing about 40% of your deliverables and assignments. They are there to support you. They become part of your family. You go through this experience together. By family, I mean your program family. And it's a really significant part of the program. And then finally, of course, Queen's University has an amazing reputation, as does the Smith School of Business, not just within Canada, but worldwide. And a huge part of the MBA experience is building your network, both with your current classmates, but also the amazing alumni network we have across the world. So there's just two things I want to quickly highlight before passing it over to Carrie, and this is more on, like looking at it logistically and how this actually works. So the program, as I said, runs January to December. But the way that we are able to condense it into a year and allow students to continue to work is that we have these bi-weekly classes that are virtual, but we also have 3 in-person sessions at Queen's University. So the first 2 are in Kingston and the final is in Toronto. We do have, as I said, a Smith Toronto location, which is where I work out of. And there's kind of 3 reasons we do this. One is we want you to connect with the Queen's community, feel a part of the school, get to know the staff, the faculty, etc. We also want you to connect with your classmates and your teammates by kicking off the program with a 10-day on-site in Kingston in January. You build amazing relationships. You get to kind of check out Kingston all together as a team and a class. And you just really feel, I think I always say to the students that when you go through something so intense, you have class all day, every day, you have events in the evening, you just really build those bonds quickly. And so that's what these on-sites are about. And then, of course, you get to complete a significant portion of the curriculum. You have class every morning and every afternoon, normally complete a couple credits while you're here on campus, and that makes it possible for us to fit the rest of the curriculum in throughout the year. As I mentioned, we do have these bi-weekly classes. So every other week, you have class on Sunday and Monday. And the professor is actually in Kingston. So we have an incredible studio at Goods Hall at Queen's University's campus. And the professors teach out of that studio, that it is then projected across the country. And we have 2 different types of teams. We have boardroom teams and we have virtual teams. The boardroom teams are actual locations we have in some of the major cities in Canada, such as Vancouver, Calgary, Mississauga, Toronto, Markham, and Ottawa. And the virtual teams are you're sitting in a Zoom room with your team. The technology is quite seamless. You're able to go into breakout sessions together. You're able to whiteboard, etc. So I have here on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see there's a virtual team there. And at the bottom, that is a boardroom team. You have class every other weekend. You'll have a Sunday morning class, a Sunday afternoon class, and then a Monday morning class. And then Monday afternoon, some teams go back to work and some teams continue to work on their deliverables or have their team meeting. Other teams choose to have those team meetings later in the week. So that is kind of it at a very high level. If you have more questions, I do suggest that you go back to our website, go to info sessions and listen in to a general webinar on the AMBA program, where I not only dive a lot deeper into these components, but I also have a guest, such as a current student or an alumni who can speak to their perspective. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Carrie because that's what this webinar is specifically about, and she is going to talk about the application process.
Lovely. Thanks, Emily. So hi, everyone. My name is Carrie Fraser, and I am the application advisor for the Accelerated MBA program. So my role is to work with candidates and help them put together a strong application file that gets presented to the admissions committee. So I work with applicants and guide them through each step of the application process. So as a start, if you're interested in learning more about the Accelerated MBA program and you're just really starting to research MBAs at this point, I'd encourage you to reach out on our website. And you can use the introduce yourself form. From there, my colleague Liz will be in touch with you, and she can give you some guidance in terms of if you may be eligible for this program. You can also use the QR code on your screen there to book a virtual consultation with her, really just to gain some more general information about this program and ask any questions that you may have. So if you've already kind of moved on to the next stage, you've done your research, you've decided that you want to submit an application, I would certainly encourage you to go ahead, do that, start your application, just get the process started, and then we would move through the application process together, and then I would help you finish your application. So we'll go on to the next slide, Emily. So really, the first step in applying to the program is to simply just complete the application form on our website and submit your resume and transcript. So at this time, we wouldn't require the references or the cover letter. We just require the resume and transcript. And then that would allow me enough information to conduct a preliminary assessment. And it's really important to note that at this point, there's no application fee. There's no obligation at all required once you've started that application. So again, really, the first thing we would need is submit the application form on our website, and then we need a copy of your transcript. So an unofficial copy of the transcript is fine at this point. A screenshot, whatever you have at that point would be fine. Official transcripts aren't required unless an offer of admission is made. And then we also need your resume. So don't be too concerned at this point if your resume is maybe not as polished as you like. That's okay. You can always provide a more updated version of your resume as we go through the application process. At this point, having your LinkedIn profile would be adequate as well. Basically, I need to have a really thorough look at the academic and the professional background really to determine if you would be a suitable candidate for this program. So we are looking for candidates with an undergrad degree in business or commerce. And along with that, we're looking for a set of 9 core business courses. And we also need to see a minimum of a 2.7 GPA. And we're specifically looking for that GPA on those 9 core business courses. So if you're concerned about your undergrad grades, or you think you may be missing a course or not sure if you have them all, please still submit that application. I can review your transcript and determine if you have what we're looking for. So while we are ideal looking for that B average, we really do consider each candidate individually, and we do look at the application as a whole. So if maybe you feel your grades aren't super strong, but say, for example, you graduated 8 years ago, and now you have a good solid amount of work experience, we would certainly take that into consideration, and your grades could be weighted maybe somewhat less than someone who only has the minimum of 2 years of work experience and is in a much more junior role. So all that to say, please don't hesitate to apply because you feel your grades might not be strong enough. Submit that application, get the process started, and I can do a preliminary assessment to determine if you would be eligible. And then aside from the academic background, we're also looking for a minimum of 2 years of professional business-related work experience after graduation. So students in this program do have on average 6 years of work experience. However, we will consider the minimum of 2 years of work experience. Again, if you aren't sure if your work experience is what we're looking for, or maybe you're just under that 2 year mark, certainly please feel free to apply and I can review your application to determine if you do have the work experience that aligns with what we're looking for. So if after reviewing your resume and transcript that I feel that you'd be a good candidate for this program, then I would work with you and guide you through the rest of the application process. And the next steps would be to submit your cover letter and references. And then from there, we would set up an interview with the program director. And I did just want to mention as well, because this question comes up quite often, a GMAT is not required for admission to this program. So we do admissions on a rolling basis. Once the application file is completed, your file is reviewed by the admissions committee and a decision is made typically within about a week or so. So really the entire application process can move as quickly or slowly as you wish, just depending on how quickly those items are submitted to me. And we do have we do have a really personalized approach to the application process. So applicants are working directly with me throughout the entire application process. Your references, cover letter, all those pieces of the application file are emailed to me directly, and I respond very quickly and always keeping candidates updated on the status of their application file. I'm always happy throughout the application process to book a call to review the application or go over any questions that you may have. So I've worked with our Accelerated MBA students for many, many years. So I have a lot of really valuable insights into the program, whether it's about program delivery, the student experience, the curriculum, faculty. I have a lot of information to share about this program. So I'm always happy to chat with a candidate as they're going throughout the application process to answer any questions that you may have about just the program in general or about your specific application. So we'll go to the next slide, Emily, please. So there are some ways that you can strengthen your application file and make yourself a more competitive applicant. So you want to ensure that you're providing an updated resume. So we want that resume to highlight, current volunteer experience, current employment experience, any intern experience. We just need to make sure that it's updated. So initially, when you're submitting that initial application, it's okay to provide, maybe a resume that's not finely tuned or polished as you like. But as you go through the application process and we work together, it's really important to, submit that finely tuned resume. In terms of references, it's really, really important to provide references that are going to that are going to respond in a timely manner and really be able to provide thoughtful insights into the questions that are asked of them in the reference form. So I would say it's really important to carefully select your references, and you really want to provide references that know you really well and can really speak to your strengths. The cover letter is also another really important aspect of the application file. And I like to think of the cover letter as really your opportunity to introduce yourself to the admissions committee and share what makes you unique and why you would be a really great fit for this program. So it's really a way to customize your application and really allow yourself to shine through as a candidate. So definitely important to put some effort into that cover letter and really make yourself shine. Another way to strengthen your application file is generally just by being really knowledgeable about the program. Make sure you do your research, learn about the program, learn about the program structure, the program delivery. Not only would this give you great insight into the program you're applying to, but it's also going to allow you to ask relevant questions and really touch on key points, both in the interview and in the cover letter that you provide. So we'll go to the next slide there, Emily. So once we've got the majority of your application file completed, we'll book the interview. So interviews are conducted via Zoom with Emily, our program director. Interviews are a one-on-one format. They're typically booked for about an hour. They don't always go an hour, but we do book them in for 1 hour. Once you get to the interview stage, I would then send you Emily's Calendly link, and then you would book in an interview that works at the time best for you. So I often get a lot of questions about what to expect in the interview, what is discussed, and one of the primary goals of the interview is really to determine if a candidate is a good fit for this program and if the program is a good fit for the candidate. So you're only going to do your MBA once. It's a significant investment in your time and it's a significant financial investment. So you need to really do your research and ensure that you're applying to the program that is the right fit for you and the program, and that this program will help you reach your career goals. So in terms of tips for the actual interview, in terms of preparing for the interview, a couple of important things to mention. We always encourage everyone to test the technology in advance. Of course, we want to make sure the sound and the video is working just so that the interview is seamless and there's no delays. Of course, set yourself up in a quiet space. That just allows the interview to progress seamlessly. In the interview, there's often a discussion surrounding the team-based learning environment of this program. So this is a team-based program. Team-based programs are not for everyone. So that's something to definitely take into consideration in your research. But we really want students to understand that. So all students, as Emily had mentioned, are part of a learning team throughout the program. And that team is a really key component of this program. So it's really important in the interview for a candidate to be knowledgeable about the team-based nature of the program and really be able to speak to how they would contribute and work as part of a team. It's also important in the interview to be able to speak to your professional goals and really be able to articulate how the Accelerated MBA will help you reach them, help you reach these goals, and really why you're applying to this specific program. So, of course, there's no right or wrong answers to these questions. It's just being prepared to be able to speak to them and clearly explain why you are applying to this specific MBA program. There's often a conversation in the interview about balancing your personal and professional life. So that's something to think about in advance of the interview if you're asked a question such as that. And again, it's really just important to go in the interview, having done your research about this program, having a really clear understanding of what the program is all about and why you feel that you are competitive candidates for this program and why you should be offered admission to this program ultimately. And again, the interview along with the cover letter it's another really great opportunity to highlight your unique story and really showcase what makes you stand out from other applicants. So after the interview is completed, your file will then be reviewed reviewed by the admissions committee. And it is at that point that the admissions committee reviews your entire application package. So it's at that point they're going to get your final resume, they're going to review your references and the cover letter. So typically, after the interview, the file is reviewed by the admissions committee, usually would receive a decision within about a week or so of the interview. So the admissions process can really move as quickly or as slowly as a candidate wishes, just, depending on when I receive those pieces of the application file. So if you are thinking about applying for this program, our next intake is January. So I would certainly encourage you to get the process started, submit the application, and then I would work with you throughout the application process, and we would work together to finish that application. So again, to get the process started, simply complete that application form on our website, submit your resume and transcript, and then I would be in touch with details from there to provide information on your eligibility and discuss next steps. So I do hope to hear from you. If you have any questions, certainly please feel to reach out. And that back over to you, Emily.
Thank you so much, Carrie. A great summary of the process, as well as some tips and tricks. There is one question that came in, and that question is around whether or not there is an in-person accelerated version of the MBA. So this is our only accelerated program at Smith, but we do have four MBA programs. And I want to talk about each of them just very quickly so you know what the different options are. And then I'll clarify, whether or not this program is considered in person or virtual. We have two executive MBA programs. One is just Queens. It's very similar to the AMBA program in that we have boardrooms across the country or virtual teams, and they come to on-sites a few times a year. We also have an executive MBA program with Cornell University in the States, where students are able to get degrees from both schools. It is, again, a boardroom-based program across Canada, the US, and Latin America. But again, it is a while you work program. The big thing with those two degrees is they are longer. They are closer to a year and a half. But they are while you work programs, and you do need to have at least 10 years of work experience to qualify. Then our fourth program is the full-time MBA program. It is a 1 year in-person program, but you do have to commit to leaving your current role and moving to Kingston and taking that degree full-time for the year. So it is not a while-you-work program. And traditionally, students in that program don't have a commerce undergrad. I mean, of course, there might be a couple a year, but it's often people with, science backgrounds, engineer backgrounds that are looking for a general management degree. So AMBA is again a while you work program, and it's only 12 months, so it is the quickest while you work program we have. And while it is virtual to a degree, in that especially if you don't live in one of our major hubs and therefore are taking the program on a virtual team, we do still consider it somewhat of an in-person program in that we have these three on sites. And if you belong to, or if you live in, Vancouver, Calgary, Ottawa, Toronto, Mississauga, or Markham, you're able to take the program in person with your team every other weekend. Of course, the faculty are not in person, but the technology allows it to kind of feel like they are, and they are not teaching to an in-person class and you're just calling into it. They are teaching across the country in the same style, whether or not you're in a boardroom or on a team. So we don't necessarily consider this is not an online program. We do consider this somewhat kind of a hybrid or in-person boardroom-based program. But I understand how you could see it as a virtual program, especially if you're not based in one of those cities. Okay, I have another question that came in. Could you tell us about the program cost? Yes, great question. And maybe actually, Carrie, after I explain the cost, you could just talk about the enrollment process and if you are offered or if you are given an offer, how you enroll. But the program cost is just over $82,000 for the year. It is an all-inclusive fee, so it includes all of your on-site costs. So you do have to get to Kingston and Toronto, but once you're there, all your hotels, your meals, all the activities, and we do things like this last year we did, or last week, sorry, the students were just in town last week for our June on site. We do a Thousand Island boat tour. We go skating, in the Market Square in Kingston in January. We do paddleboarding, kayaking, pickleball. Of course, we do a lot of class. We do, all of the meals together. All of that is included, as are your case materials or your cases, your learning materials, your textbooks, all of that. So it's 82,000, but it's an all-inclusive fee. There are no additional costs outside of your travel to the on-sites, and you pay that fee over 3 installments. So a third of it is due in January. A third of it, of course, in January, it's minus the deposit. A third of it is due in May, and a third of it is due in September. Queens does have a payment plan if you decide instead to pay it equally across 12 months and pay a 12th every month. You can do that as an alternative as well. You just have to sign up for that. But Carrie, if you could talk about, once you receive an offer, what does that process look like?
For sure. So obviously once your file is reviewed by the admissions committee, you would receive an admission decision. If you are offered admission to the program, then you typically have 3 weeks to sign back your offer letter and pay that $5,000 deposit. Once we receive your signed acceptance letter and your deposit, and we have any outstanding things such as official transcripts and such, you would then be officially enrolled in the program. And at that point, I would introduce you to our dedicated AMBA program manager, Michaela. So then she would be your main point of contact, and she would work very, very close with you over the coming months to help prepare you and get you ready for the start of the program.
Excellent. Thank you. Another question, is management experience mandatory for admission to the program? It is not. No, not for the Accelerated MBA program. It is mandatory for the Executive MBA program. For this program, we just need that 2 years of work experience. It does not need to be management experience. And then also, if you're based out of Kingston, is there a way to opt out of certain fees? Unfortunately, there are not. There is no opportunity to do so. The reason for that is that we actually specifically want you in hotels all together with your team, not in the same room. Everyone gets their own private room, but we put your team all together, in the same hotel. You have access to a team room. We want you to fully, embrace this experience and all be together in one place. These on-sites are incredible at bringing, like, encouraging collaboration and class culture and community. Normally, I mean, when we left last week, the class, everyone was crying, they were hugging, they were so excited to come back in December. So this is really like an immersive experience because you only get to come together in person 3 times a year. We do ask that even those that are based out of Kingston or close by fully engage in the process and stay in the hotel. And so, no, unfortunately not. There's no decrease in or reduction of fees depending if you're based in Kingston or again in Toronto in December. Those are all great questions. I don't think I have any others. Oh, maybe one just came in at the last minute. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. So with that, we will close it down for the day, but we are so grateful you joined us. Those were great questions. And of course, as Carrie said, we encourage you to apply. Do not feel like your application has to be perfect, just submitting what you have so far, and then Carrie will walk you through the process. And once the two of you decide your application is perfected, then it is submitted to the admissions committee. And by doing that, by submitting your preliminary application, you do get access to Carrie, who is incredibly responsive, as all the candidates tell me. And is there to support you throughout the process. So I encourage you to do that. Looking forward to reviewing them, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of your Thursday. Thanks, everyone.